Hey everyone, my name is Iasmina and welcome back to my channel. Today I tried something a little different. I have my 50mm lens instead of the default one that comes with the camera, so it's a little bit closer. See how this works. If it doesn't look that great, I'll switch back next video, but I wanted to try something different. And you may also notice that my audio quality is a little bit better. Again, I've tried something new. I have this little lapel mic that is actually hooked into this TASCAM 05. I'll link it down below if you're interested, but hopefully this should give me much better audio than the really cheap shotgun mic I had before that was sitting on the camera. I also need to start speaking at a lower volume than I was used to before, because I was practically screaming at the camera in order for the shotgun mic to pick up. But now, since it's so close to my mouth, I actually need to lower my volume. So, hey guys, in today's video I wanted to talk to you about the series I will never, probably, most likely, finish. Some of these I am a little in doubt of, so I might ask for your input if it's worth, going back to them, if it's worth finishing these series. But otherwise, I pretty much have my reasons why I'll never finish these series, so I just want to talk to you about them today. But please guys, remember, these are just my opinions, and if I didn't like something doesn't mean you can't like it. Everyone can have their own opinions, okay? Some of these I have physical copies of that I will hold up if I do, otherwise I will just insert a picture here. Okay, so the first one is The Infernal Devices by Cassandra Clare, and I guess Mortal Instruments goes with that. I have only read the first book in the Infernal Devices series. I think it's called Clockwork Angel. But this is one of those series that was super popular when I first started watching BookTube, and of course I was interested in reading it, and I found it cheap on Kindle one day, and so I picked it up. I wanted to see what all the fuss was about, and honestly I just wasn't that impressed. I didn't really care about any of the characters. The plot was okay enough, but it just didn't keep me interested enough to find out what happens to these characters in book 2 and 3. And in general, Cassandra Clare's writing style wasn't something special, wasn't something that really impressed me. And actually, I'm pretty sure The Infernal Devices is supposed to be her better series, so much better than the writing and the Mortal Instruments. And since I didn't really like The Infernal Devices, I have no interest in going back and reading her first series. The second series I want to talk about is actually one that I'm not sure a lot of people actually know is a series, if that makes sense. So the first book is Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card, and this is a very famous book. Obviously it's a sci-fi classic and it's been made into a movie. I haven't actually seen the movie, but I loved this. This was awesome. I highly recommend this one, even though there's been some controversy over the author. So, if that's something that you care about, I suggest you research a bit about Orson Scott Card before. But I've read the book before I knew about the controversy surrounding him. This book is great. However, I actually read the second one called Speaker for the Dead. I'm pretty sure I finished it, although I really don't know why I finished it, because I hated it. It was so awful and boring, and I could not care less. This book is good. The sequel is not, and I will definitely not finish the series. The next series I will never finish is actually a contemporary series / companion novel series kind of thing. You'll see what I mean. So the first one is Just One Day by Gail Forman, and I really did enjoy this book. It does end on a little bit of a cliffhanger, and then I found out that the second book doesn't actually continue on the story, but it tells the same story from the male character point of view, so in this case, the love interest. I don't know about you, but I really don't like it when sequels or prequels do that. I don't see the point of reading the same story. Same things that are happening, but from a different character's point of view. And I've seen that this is a trend, or it has been a trend, maybe around the time that the second book came out, for authors to do that, to make sequels or companion novels just rehashing the same story from someone else's point of view. I think even Twilight, right? Twilight did that at some point. after years and years, and then she came out with the reverse side, yeah, from Edward's point of view. Why? If any one of you has read any of these sequels, I don't know, please tell me your opinion. Maybe I'm missing out on something great, but from where I'm standing right now, I just don't see the point. The next series I don't have the physical book of because I read it on my Kindle, and I'm glad I did because it is the Maze Runner series, and I'm pretty sure the first one is just called The Maze Runner. And again, this was one of the really popular series when I first started watching BookTube, and then of course the movie of it came out. Haven't seen the movie, don't feel the need to. I liked the idea of the Maze Runner, but I really did not like the execution. You know, it's one of these series that came out in the dystopian frenzy that was a thing, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, maybe even more at this point, I'm not sure. It was a long time ago. A group of kids, they wake up on an isolated island full of dangerous traps, beasts, all that kind of stuff, and then there's a maze as well that they have to obviously go through to win. I don't remember what they win, or I don't remember the point, honestly, because I read this a while ago, but I did not like the characters, I did not like the writing, and I just think the execution of it had so much potential, I feel like, because the idea itself, putting, you know, kids together, kind of fight to the death against a lot of dangerous things, it can be done really well. It's just that this one wasn't done well, and I'm definitely not going to continue on with books 2 and 3, and I think there's also a prequel, or not going to finish the Maze Runner series. Now the next series I want to talk about is actually one I've already kind of mentioned randomly, but it is the famous or infamous, however you want to look at it, Twilight series. Okay, so I read the first Twilight book, as I think did most people, when I was about 13 or 14 when it first came out, and not gonna lie, I enjoyed it. It was interesting, it was new to me at the time. It was an enjoyable read. However, I tried then to read the second book whenever that came out, and I couldn't even finish it. I just did not care. And I know there's like a third and a fourth book. But look, I know Twilight was a super popular series, but I think it's quite popular, at least on BookTube, to kind of shit on it or look down upon it now that we're older and have better perspective, because it is very problematic and super creepy and just not very well executed. I just don't think it's the kind of book that young teenage girls especially should be reading. It's full of really awful relationships. So I'm definitely not gonna finish the Twilight series. Not sure why I need to mention that, because it's been years since I even started the thing, but just FYI, I've only read the first book and a few hundred pages of the second one. I never finished it, and I don't plan on finishing that series. I'm okay with my vampires not sparkling. Thank you very much. Now the next two series, I feel a little bad because I enjoyed both of these series very much, but I just don't feel like they're necessarily right for me right now. Okay, so let me explain. The first series I'm talking about is the Percy Jackson series, the first 5 books in that series. To be more precise, I read the first 3. I got them in a box set, and they were really fun adventure middle grade based on Greek mythology, and it's fun and it's nice and it's really well written and quite funny in places, but I guess I'm not the target audience for it anymore, and I read them like a few years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, so definitely not the target audience for it. These are middle grade books, so they're meant for younger readers, and while I'm a huge Harry Potter freak and I still read Harry Potter every single year, even though the first few books, at least the first 3 for sure, are a lot more similar to Percy Jackson in that vein, that they are meant for younger readers, I still enjoy them just as much. But that's probably because I read them for the first time when I was the target audience, and so I have a lot more attachment to it and a lot of nostalgia. But reading Percy Jackson for the first time, I just felt like I can really connect to the characters, and I didn't really care to follow them along their journey further than book 3, basically. And then the similar series that I was going to talk about is also one that I really enjoyed. I just don't feel like I'm the target audience, and I don't feel like I want to go further. and that is The School for Good and Evil series by Soman Chainani. Really well written, the characters are great, it's a lot of fun, but I don't feel myself needing to continue. And there's actually, I think, 3 or 4 more books in this series, but really great book. I recommend it for younger readers, especially. So you can see that not all of these series are series that I hated. Okay, now the next series I want to talk about is it was actually one of the first fantasy series I read, or the first fantasy books I read, and that is Sword of Truth by Terry Goodkind. I read the first book and I devoured that book when I first picked it up. I hadn't read much fantasy when I read that book, so that was one of the first adult fantasy books I read. It was so full of action, and the characters were okay, but I liked the plot, and the writing I felt was, I don't know, it kept me turning the page, and I really liked it. There was some weird bits, I'm not gonna lie. There is a part there that is really, really weird and cringy, and even while reading it, even though I enjoyed it, I enjoyed the whole book, that part was questionable, to say the least. But anyway, I finished that book, and then I was planning on continuing on with the series eventually, but then I started reading Game of Thrones and I started reading other fantasy books. I never really got back to it, but I had always sort of planned to continue eventually. But then I started watching BookTube and I started watching people talk about the series. And then I decided, no thanks, I'm not up for that. Basically, Terry Goodkind, in similar fashion maybe to Orson Scott Card, is a little questionable as a person. And from what I understood, of course, I have not continued on with the series, so I don't know if this is completely true, but this is what most people say, that his views, his political views, and generally his views on stuff kind of permeate into the books and make them questionable. And it's a really long series. I think it has 13 or 14 books, and then there's prequels, and it's a really long-ass series, and I already have enough long-ass fantasy series that I actually love, that I don't think are problematic, at least definitely not as much as I've heard Sword of Truth is. So yeah, I'm good. The next series I want to talk about is actually a maybe I won't finish this series. Because, okay, let me just tell you, the series is called The First Law Trilogy by Joe Abercrombie, and the first book is The Blade Itself. And this is a grimdark fantasy adult series. And even though I have this physical book, I actually listened to it on audiobook. And I think that is probably the reason why I did not really connect with the story or the characters. And so after finishing that audiobook, I was left with kind of a meh feeling that doesn't really make me want to continue on with the next 2 books in the trilogy. Although Joe Abercrombie has written quite a few series, some set in the same world, some completely different, and I actually really like the author. I've seen him on panel shows and I've seen him in interviews, and he is hilarious. He is so funny. And so I definitely want to try more of his stuff. I might be convinced to give it another shot, because I feel like the reason I didn't like it so much was because I listened to it instead of reading it, which I know is silly because I have it right here. I could have read it physically, but look, I have my reasons, okay? I don't know what they are, but I probably had my reasons. So if you've read the First Law Trilogy, if you like it, let me know why I should try again. In the last 3 series, I'm just gonna go over quickly because I don't have that many feelings about them. I just read the first books in all of these 3 series and just didn't really connect much with it, so I don't feel like continuing. And that is the Bone Season series, the Queen of the Tearling series, and the Lux series. So I didn't hate any of these books, I enjoyed them well enough, but I don't feel compelled to continue on, so I won't. So those were all the series that I wanted to talk to you guys about today. I'm sorry if any of these are one of your favorites. Please let me know if that's the case, and maybe, you know, maybe you can convince me to give it another go, especially the ones that I'm kind of undecided about. Also, let me know what are some of the series that you guys have started and are not planning on finishing. I think that would be interesting to know. Maybe we share the same ones, maybe you felt meh about the same ones as I did, and then we can connect. I don't know what this is, but this is connection apparently. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next Monday. Bye!